Welcome back, everybody, to the OK Grognard Show. Today is Monday, November 14, 2022, 10 a.m. Central, in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. And we are continuing with our look at the first edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Dungeon Master's Guide section on magic items. We're knee-deep in the excellent... Ooh, what's going on? Oh, there we go. We're looking at the miscellaneous magic items. We're in section 105. This is going to definitely trail into 2023. And speaking of which, I was looking at the calendar, and we're getting close to the winter hiatus time, which means I think we've got 5 more shows after today, taking us through December 19th. That'll be the last show of 2022, and then we'll take a few weeks off, and we'll be back on January 16th in 2023. We'll see how far we get before the end of the year. We usually do an end of the year wrap up sort of thing. I don't know if we'll need to do a whole show devoted to one. We'll probably just do a quick announcement toward the beginning. Maybe assess some things. Thank our Patreon supporters and all of our viewers, of course, which is always a pleasant thing to do when we get a chance to check in with people. Anyway, let's continue with this because I'm curious. Bowls, that's right. We're in bowls. Wonderful, wonderful bowls. Because we just got done with boots last time. Bowl of commanding water elementals. This large container is usually fashioned from blue or green stone of semi-precious value such as malachite or lapis lazuli. Sometimes jade will be used. It is about 1 inch in diameter. 1 foot in diameter, half that deep, 6 inches, and relatively fragile. When the bowl is filled with water, fresh or salt, and certain words are spoken, an elemental of 12 hit dice will appear. The summoning words require 1 round to speak. Note that if salt water is used, the elemental will be stronger. +2 per hit die, maximum 8 hit points per die, however. Control and similar information are given under Elemental in the Advanced Dungeon Master or Dungeon and Dragons Monster Manual. Note here they use AND and not the ampersand. That's kind of a slip up editorially since the brand is actually with the ampersand. That mistake gets made kind of often. Hey George, welcome. Thanks for chopping in the chat there. Check out a bowl of watery death below. Which is next? Water elementals. You know, I ran a whole campaign that was based around the 4 elementals, which I've tightened down into an adventure that I use sometimes at gaming conventions. It's kind of interesting. I should work that out again and revive it. I'd forgotten about that. It's been quite some time. I think that was like 30 years ago, 25 at the least. It was before third edition. It had to be during 2nd edition, I would guess. In any event, it was a good time and included some wonderful villains. Yeah, good times. Anyway, Bowl of Watery Death is the next one. This device exactly resembles a bowl commanding water elementals, including color, design, magic, radiation, etc. However, when it is filled with water, the magic user must save versus magic or be shrunk to the size of a small ant and plunged into the center of the bowl. Note, if salt water is poured into the bowl, the saving throw is at -2. The victim will drown in from 3 to 8 rounds unless magic is used to save the individual, for he or she cannot be physically removed from the bowl of watery death except by magical means. Animal growth, enlarge, or wish are the only spells which will free the victim and restore normal size. A growth potion poured into the water will have the same effect. A sweet water potion will allow the victim another saving throw, i.e. a chance that the curse magic of the bowl works only briefly. If the victim drowns, death is permanent, no resurrection possible, and even a wish will not work. That's pretty brutal. That is absolutely brutal to tack that on at the end, that no resurrection is possible and even a wish will not bring someone back. Good morning, Sarah. Welcome. Just in time to listen to an irrevocable death for someone who drowns in the bowl of watery death. I would imagine that it would be within the spirit of what is written here to allow some other spells to work for getting the victim out of the water or keeping them from drowning at least for some time. What if you could freeze the water, for instance? I would imagine that would be possible. Maybe it gets a saving throw as a magic item would if you're trying to actually affect the magic item, and the water is part of the magical effect of the magic item at this point. So, and there's so many other spells. Obviously, when this came out, the only spells available in first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons were the spells in the player's handbook and probably a handful that had come out in some Dragon magazine articles in the subsequent year between when the player's handbook came out and the Dungeon Master's Guide. So I would think you would have to include any canon subsequent spells that came out as being potentially added to the list of these three: animal growth, enlarge, and wish, because they weren't under consideration at the point at which this was written. And because it is such an irrevocable victim drowns, death is permanent, no resurrection is possible, and even a wish will not work. I think that caveats. I think that is also to say, rather, that reincarnation will not work, since it says, and even a wish. It kind of bookends all of the things that will not work. So there you go. Braces of defense. Moving on. These items appear to be some sort of wrist or arm guards, like my friend Wendy was wearing at our game night a couple of weeks back. Their magic bestows an effective armor class equal to actually wearing armor and employing a shield. Of course, if armor is actually worn, the braces will not be effective, but they do work in conjunction with other magical items of protection. The armor class the bracers of defense bestow is determined by random dicing on the table below. It's a percentage dice table. It takes you from 8th through 2nd, and it is kind of weighted toward the middle, or toward the better ones, I guess. So 1 to 5, armor class 8, 6 to 15. Armor class 7, 16 to 35. Armor Class 6, 36 to 50. Armor Class 5, 51 to 70. Armor Class 4, 71 to 85. Bit of a bell curve here. Armor Class 3, 86 to 100. Armor Class 2. I've always been of a mind. Yeah, George says, good old bracers of defense, the goal of all players who have armor restrictions, weight limits, and rely on stealth. I've always been of a mind that if you're, it says they will not be effective. Of course, if armor is actually worn, the bracers will not be effective, but they do work in conjunction with other magical items of protection. I've always been of a mind that if you're wearing bracers of defense and some lesser armor, that whichever is better. So if you're wearing leather armor, but you have bracers of defense armor class 3, I am of a mind that that bestows armor class 3 on you. It just supersedes the armor since it is better at defense. I think this is a fair way of doing something. I don't think the bracers should not work if they're with armor. I would just think that the better of the two supersedes the other. So I've always worked it that way. Of course, with other magical items of protection, that would add to it even further. So a ring plus 1, for instance, would get you to from 3 to 2 rather than from 8 to 7, which would be annoying. Because how else do the bracers actually make you quicker at or more dexterous? No, not at certainly not at other things. I mean, are you Wonder Woman blocking bullets? I don't think so. So it seems like a bad idea to say that they are negated by wearing armor. That's my take on it. It's not rules as written, but there you go. And then, of course, bracers of defenselessness. This items, these items appear to be some sort of bracers of defense, and they will actually serve as one of the above types until the wearer is attacked in anger by a dangerous enemy. So if you're attacked in joviality by a friend, they still continue to work. At at that moment, the bracers will lower armor class to 10 and negate any and all other magical protections and dexterity bonuses. Thereafter, the bracers can only be removed by means of remove curse spell. I've always wondered too, since we haven't talked about this before, I don't think, the remove curse spell is not that hard a spell for seasoned adventurers who have a number of magical items to acquire or have access to. So it always seems like a bit of a lowering of the bar to only require a remove curse spell to get rid of what is essentially an otherwise devastating effect from a magic item. Now, of course, it makes these things sort of a one-time use, because certainly back in the day when we were playing First Edition regularly in other DMs games, because I didn't always Dungeon Master, although I do most of the time and prefer it, the situation would be that something like this would come up. You'd figure it out pretty quickly. Oh, whoa, they hit me so easily. It's, maybe a bit metagamey, but you realize it fairly quickly, and then, all bets are off. Whatever adventure you were on, anything else, almost invariably you would drop everything else to go get that remove curse spell, or make sure you get a remove curse spell immediately and get these bracers of defenselessness off my character before I wind up dying because being an armor class 10, if you're well, normally, these would go to someone who doesn't normally wear armor and has magical armor, so certainly not fighters or probably not clerics. In any event, pretty much drop everything else. Let's talk about Brazier of Commanding Fire Elementals. This device appears to be a normal container for holding burning coals unless magic is detected for. Awkward. It enables a magic user to summon an elemental of 12 hit dice from the elemental plane of fire. The fire must be lit in the brazier. Usually one round is required. If sulfur is added, just like with salt water, right? The elemental will be +1 on each hit die, 2 to 9. So no maximum, but only +1. Not like the +2, but maximum 8, right? Fire elemental will appear as soon as the fire is burning and a command word is uttered. See the monster manual. Brazier of Sleep Smoke. This device is exactly similar to Brazier commanding fire elementals. However, when a fire is started within it, the burning will cause great clouds of magical smoke to pour forth in a cloud of 10-foot radius from the brazier. All creatures within the cloud must save versus magic or fall into a deep sleep. At the same moment, a fire elemental of 12 hit dice will appear and attack the nearest creature. Sleeping creatures can only be awakened by means of a dispel magic or remove curse. So it's not enough to knock you out. It's only a sleep smoke after all. But if you're on your own and up comes a 12 hit die fire elemental to attack you and whoever else is with you, well, the nearest creature, which is probably you or one of your companions, you're pretty much pounded to dust quite quickly. If you can't deal with this, and you don't have somebody else with a dispel magic, if you're a magic user and you're using this, then you may be the only magic user in the party. George says you could tie a remove curse success to a unique component based on the curse. Let me read that again. You could tie a remove curse success to a unique component based on the curse. Not sure I'm following. You saying a specialized spell that is like a remove curse, but only that spell can be used to say bracers of defenselessness, or like there's a parenthetical after each version of it. You've got to get a scroll that is a remove curse that is specific for this item or this type of curse. That would be interesting. It would make it a little more restrictive. Yeah, because the whole thing is kind of swingy, right? I mean, the whole uh, dying and can't be resurrected and all of that stuff. Some of these things are so irrevocable. It just seems like a remove curse is such a letdown. On the other hand, the component for remove curse changed it based on the curse. Ah, I see the unique component. Ah, yes, gotcha. So a remove curse that requires using sulfur, for instance, or salt for defenselessness. I don't know, maybe something like a tiny shield or a whole shield. That's a neat idea. I think component use is underutilized as a way of specializing things, and that's a very good point. Maybe something like a boule or a stone elemental, something with a really good armor class would be something to add to the remove curse for the bracers of defenselessness. Good one, George. I like that. I like that a lot. Anyway, I see by the time we're there, so I am going to suggest we shut this down and come back next time for more, which means to say thank you to everyone in the chat, and especially for joining in today. Very much appreciated. I will also say the show streams live on Twitch each Monday at 10 a.m. Central and is then archived on YouTube. Be sure to follow and chime in when you're on Twitch, and subscribe and click the little bell when you're on YouTube, and that way you will get updates. Feel free to chat on YouTube too. Give us comments and thumbs up on ones you enjoy. It's very much appreciated. Thanks to our Patreon supporters: Dom Tullis, Fat Dragon Games, Rick Hershey of Fat Goblin Games, Carlos Lysing of Castle Entertainment, Heath Farndon of the AD&D 20, Dave O'Brien of Fort Quack Games, and as always, Shane Bradley, a DM extraordinaire. This has been the OK Grognard Show from beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Bye-bye.